is the Apparelist podcast, designed to bring you real-life conversation about high-level topics relevant to the decorated apparel community.
Hello, Apparelist fans, listeners of the Apparelist podcast. My name is Cassie Green, and I am here with another excellent episode for your enjoyment. This month, I'm sitting down with Jaymes Clements, who is the President and Chief Commercial Officer of Monster Digital. Jaymes, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you have kind of an interesting story, something we were talking about before we hopped on this podcast. Could you kind of share that? Because the way you got into the industry is very interesting. So I'd love to share that story.
Yeah, I came from the organic food space. A friend of mine who'd been working in HR offered to recruit me. They asked if I'd like to run finance. I said no. And then they introduced me to run a digital division, small, scrappy, mostly doing self-fulfillment for the company's owned properties. And I remember paper production schedules and, just scrappy startup operation. And they offered me a director of operations with one employee to start. Yeah. And I went on and we helped grow that to the point that it was bought by private equity, Platinum Equity, and merged with Mad Engine. And then in the past 7 months, I joined Monster Digital as their COO, and excited to partner with these people. I believe in the dream that they have. It's a shared vision, and we just want to do bigger and better things all the time.
I love that.
Advance the industry. So
yeah, love it. It's kind of crazy. So for those of you listening to this episode, we are actually in Miami at the Kornit Connections event. And there's been some talks about what this acronym BUD, but this big unrealistic dream, which can sound kind of unrealistic, right? But Jaymes actually had his bud shared, which I thought is cool. You were just talking about, the opportunities that Monster has and things like that. What is your big unrealistic dream?
Yeah, they put it up there. They put a timeline on it. It's probably tighter than I would have put, but we want to be the biggest printer. We want to be the largest digital printer globally. We'll start with North America, but we'd like to take on as much of the space as we can. We have a passion for what we do. I believe we're the best in the space, and we want to continue to service more and more partners, leading to growth. That's where we want to be.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't have that, what are you shooting for? I mean, come on. Sometimes it is good to set a really, even if it's a tighter time frame than what was shared publicly, Yeah,
if you don't aim high, you'll never achieve it, right? So definitely always push ourselves. I like to say, I'll always be really proud of what we accomplish, but I'll never be satisfied.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's a great attitude to take into it. And so, it's something you're talking about right now, obviously being at Kornit Connections, we're talking about digital technology, DTG, all of that stuff, kind of some industry shaking going on. One of the trends everybody keeps talking about is this massive shift that we're seeing. Obviously, we saw this happen during COVID. Everybody talks about it. We don't need to rehash it, but supply chains saw the shakeup and things like that. Now we're seeing things like AI, automation, robotics, all of that stuff shaking up the industry. So as someone who is a decorator, who's kind of on the front lines of what's happening in the apparel space, what are some of the trends that you're seeing, some of the technology that's coming up that is going to give, decorators a whole new level of, technology?
Yeah, great question. I think this is like a multifaceted answer, but the first is, the technology in and of itself with printing. Like before, when digital printing was, I'm not going to say just starting, but really in its fledgling period before it's kind of had this comeuppance, brands, retailers, they weren't interested in the product. It was a hard sell. I feel like that's shifting. I feel like not only is the technology coming along, the throughput coming along, and the quality's really there. You also look at the actual attitude of the retailers, of people, brands changing. They're looking at the industry a little differently now. They're like, maybe I don't need to buy 3,000 shirts, speculation.
Yeah.
What if I were to launch myself 300 units and do that DTG drop to the store. Like, how would I feel if I didn't have to take these risks, if I didn't have the write-offs, if I didn't generate the waste? So when you're looking, it is a paradigm shift though. You look at retail buyers, a lot of them are like, what's my open to buy? And you're like, well, it's $0. What do you mean it's $0? You don't have to buy it till somebody orders it. This product only exists because somebody ordered it. So definitely a paradigm change in the industry. I mean, the time to consumer is faster as well. The cycles aren't, you're not waiting on these large imports. You're able to turn product, whether you're doing it domestically or near shore, like generally the time to consumer is very fast. So, the consumer's expectations changing. People want options. People want selection. They want customization. They want to portray themselves. You mentioned AI. I'm like, I'm not an artist, but I can go on a platform and I can come up with a prompt and I can get something that I feel like represents my idea, and that's empowered me to put that on, and I can get something customized for me, my family, my kids, whoever, So I think about like not just the tools for printing and the cycle times and everything being faster. Like we're in this fast-paced economy, we really are, but we're also in a creator economy. And like, you don't have to be an expert at printing. You don't have to be an expert at selling any of these, or an artist. I'm like, there's tools out there, there's vendors out there. Everyone's enabling you to be who you want to be, and represent yourself in merchandise. So, yeah.
I mean, no one can see it, but I'm wearing a custom jacket. So I also too subscribe to loving custom apparel. And
it's a very nice jacket. Yeah.
So you mentioned one of the drivers of those, trends, the shift we're seeing is the customer, right? We're seeing people, that thanks Amazon. Let's just say it, like, thanks Amazon for creating this expectation of getting things pretty quickly, right? What other factors are you seeing influence that, especially now? I mean, I hate to bring up the big T word, but like tariffs, but global economy in general. I mean, what are some of the bigger things that you think are influencing these trends?
Yeah, we talked tariff. I mean, I think the tariff will force people to reconsider where they're sourcing goods from. It's interesting. Like I see, we print in the U.S. as well, right here in Miami. Other printers that print in the U.S., they'll say like, we're proudly printing in the U.S. and we're proud to print here too. But I'm like, well, most of the blanks aren't coming from the U.S. So even if you print here, like you can't, anybody that's saying they're not affected by the tariffs isn't being completely honest. Like now everyone will be affected in the same way if they leverage large mills, right? Or large supply chains. But you can still be selective and think about where it's coming from. You have display. You have people that are buying for just their own digital operations. You have people buying in mass for retail. You have people doing cut and sew outside of the mills that everybody's familiar with, right? Doing custom product. And then you have people like at the show we're at here doing their own on-demand cut and sew at site. So I would say like tariffs, everyone needs to be kind of cognizant and aware. It's a dynamic situation. It keeps changing. I think once we have an idea as an industry where we're affected and settled, like that'll actually help us understand like how the roles play in the future, where people will source, where manufacturing is going to happen, long lead time, short lead time, fast turn, right? So are you near shore? Are you domestic? Lots to consider when it comes to tariffs. I don't feel like the full picture's been painted yet. Again, lots of change happening, and looking forward to finding out what that looks like at the end of the day. I think we all are. So
I think so. And we are seeing kind of some reaction now, which is normal. I think when any big disruption happens, is some people knee-jerk react and make decisions right out of the gate. Some people are like, oh, let's take a breath, wait and see. In your personal opinion, it sounds like you're more of the let's let the dust settle a little bit. Are those some of the things you're doing over at Monster? It's just kind of evaluating, preparing?
We try to be proactive. Like we don't take a wait and see. I think it's just not, don't make bad long-term decisions without the right information. Like, we try to be ready. We're diversified in our production, our supply chain. We're not doing a lot of import from places that are heavily tariffed. We have great partnerships with our mill partners. We have great partnerships with our distributor networks, and even more importantly with our customers. So, I feel like we're in a really good place. We have been able to navigate all of these challenges efficiently and well, and we haven't been passing on major costs to our customers by any means. Like we're managing this internally as best we can, and I'm proud of the result.
Yeah, good. I love hearing that. So would what would your advice be then to others who maybe, let's break this down into two thought processes. People who are sort of burying their head in the sand and not acknowledging it at all, not like, whether it's, they're doing it on purpose or just kind of like, hey, we're busy shop owners, it's kind of back of our heads right now. What would you say to them in terms of why they maybe should change their way of thinking or prepare?
Want to level up your skills or empower your workforce? Meet iLearning Plus, the online education platform powered by our parent organization, Printing United Alliance. With on-demand courses and certifications, iLearning Plus helps print professionals stay ahead of industry trends, sharpen their expertise, and grow their careers. Whether you're elevating your skills or training your team, we've got the resources to keep you competitive. Printing United Alliance members save 20% on all courses and certifications. So get started today at ilearningplus.org and build a stronger future in print.
Yeah, they need to prepare. I would say like where brands are sourcing from and how the tariffs end up playing out could play a significant role in market competitiveness, particularly when you're thinking about like where goods fall, combed ring spun, 30 single side seam, here's the mills that are more or less well known for it. It's like, well, if one mill isn't their costs are equal, I'm like, if one's coming from a country that's less tariff than another, well, they'll have a pricing advantage. Like, if you're sourcing from the other party, that could be an issue.
Right.
So,
right. Absolutely. Second part of that question, then for the people who sort of went, oh my gosh, I got to change everything. I've got to increase my prices right now. I'm just going to immediately react. What would be your advice to them?
I don't necessarily think it's the wrong play either. I'm like, if you strike the iron while it's hot, to say, I'm like, and the market bears it, then at least you're in a good position, right? You're like, well, my consumer has accepted this. They found my reasons to be good. Maybe I'm being proactive. I think the question will be like, do they step back if the tariffs are lighter, and if they're not, well, at least they're already in that position. So I don't necessarily think that anybody knows exactly where things are going to land. So it's hard to say, and I think people who are in areas like, say, from China, where it's more heavily tariffed right now, and like, they're probably smart being proactive. Are there going to be reversals? I don't know. But if there are, good for them. They can go back to what they were doing. And if there aren't, then at least they're prepared, in other markets. So
what do those conversations look like with your customers? Because I'd imagine you have now your customers asking about that and looking at it and trying to understand what's going on. What kind of transparency are you guys having with the end user or the end buyer?
Yeah, we're super transparent with our customers. Yeah. Like everything should be a partnership and a conversation. So I think more than like discussions around, hey, are costs going up? It's more like, how do I know that my supply chain to my customer and my product is going to be, uninterrupted, and the customer experience is going to be high level like we expect. Like, how do we maintain the high standard of business that we've been enjoying and appreciating, with what's going on? And, we've taken a very proactive approach on making sure that we're diverse and we're able to fulfill from multiple locations, multiple countries. Like, we want to be in a position where the end consumer doesn't know there's a problem, even if there is. That's how we want to manage it. So now we've avoided or managed all of the challenges very well, I think. And it has been challenging. Everyone's been affected in some way.
Right.
But I think we're in a really good spot with where we're at now, and our customers help us lead the path, and their concerns are all valid and relevant. And that's why we try to keep open communication with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit. I kind of want to talk about, I don't want to say crystal ball gazing, because that's the wrong term. I think when people think of crystal ball gazing, they think, oh, we're going to find the silver bullet for the future, and here's how everything's going to play out. But like you said, you need to make smart long-term decisions. You need to sort of evaluate what's going to happen in your long game, not just as a decorator, but as a business person, right? Because we're all creative. A lot of people get into this industry because they are very good designers, or they're very creative, or they're musicians, or whatever. But we are taking the approach of what's a good business decision, right? And so, looking sort of into those long-term decisions, how do you see, digital decorating coexisting with other decorating techniques like screen printing, continuing to reshape the industry? What do you foresee that looking like?
Yeah, I'm like, there's a reason screen printing is an ancient technology and it's still around. And I think that as we see revolution with digital, like I think screen print and hybrid screen print will continue to optimize as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at where screen plays well, it's very large order quantities. I think where DTG plays is chipping further and further into what that minimum run size is.
Sure.
So before it was really the story of the one-off, and then it's like, well, maybe it's a 72. Well, hey, this machine's even faster. Maybe it's 144, 288, 400, right? Like, I think we're seeing a ramp in the efficiency and the throughput on the industrial side for digital. The quality's there. There's things you can do on digital that you can't do otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
There's custom techniques, like there's simulation techniques you can do. Like I look at on the Cornette, the XDI, where it's like simulating HD or a puff or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of growth in the tech side, a lot of innovation happening, and a lot driving the efficiencies. When I think about screen print, though, I think about retail, brick and mortar, even just evergreen products. Like if you're tried and true, you're going to be selling a lot of the same SKUs, it makes sense because you get a better economy of scale, you get a better cost per unit. I mean, so I don't see either going away, but I think that both will have advances. I actually think they'll drive innovation against each other.
Interesting.
Yeah. DTG will try to push in on screen print. It is, right?
Yeah.
And I think screen print will continue to innovate as well. And I think it'll drive itself to where, maybe there'll be a divide in the sand at some point. I think it's blurry line right now.
Okay.
But when we finally get to that end post, it's like, where's the tech land?
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you're already starting to see a lot of innovations in screen print, right? And a lot of on the equipment side, on the operations and production side, is how do you make it more efficient? How do you make it step up to maybe smaller runs and things like that? I think there are a lot of people in the industry leading the way on that. And that's kind of a cool thought process to think. It's just like people and how we were talking about goals and setting unrealistic goals, and that's what's going to drive you. What drives innovation is like the challenge, right, of each other, and like, okay, well, we can step up here, we could step up here. It's going to force us to explore this path, which I think is really fascinating to think about with screen, because like you called it, it's ancient technology, but still around. It's because of that, right? Like it works.
Yeah.
But it's also being pushed.
And you do see like hybrid approaches as well, where people are like, well, it's not digital or screen, it's both, and I'm very curious. And you see the advent, we're talking about DTG and screen, but there's the film transfers, there's, advances in embroidery, like decoration in general is coming a long way. Auto tensioning systems on embroidery. I've worked in and appreciated all the formats, more experience in DTG, but it's great to watch the tech continue to evolve.
Yeah. It's fun that you bring up embroidery too, because like I love embroidery. I love the look and feel of embroidery, and everybody's sort of like, it's always going to be there, but no one really thinks of it as innovative. But yes, there are a lot of cool things going on with embroidery too, which is fun.
Yeah, I've seen people doing like sequins on special feet on the presses, like, very unique, different hand feel. And EFO embroidery on digital printers as well. So again, I'm like, all of these fields they're all playing in each other's sandboxes. And I think I think it really drives innovation where, these companies, as they want to capture more market share, they have to push into these other areas. And they have to say like, why am I not winning business that's being won elsewhere? Right? How do I enter that marketplace? And where does it make sense for me to?
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. All right. We're coming up to the end of our podcast session, but there is one big question I do want to ask you before we wrap things up. Are there any big trends right now or big technology pushes, anything happening in the industry right now that you think is going to go away, or is just not going to have the legs, or maybe is just not what we were hoping it was, in your opinion? Yeah,
in my opinion, I think that it's not that it'll go away, it'll evolve. And I think like we were just saying, like I think the techs, as people look at how they want to drive their business and how they stay competitive, how they drive costs down, they really want to think about how the tech goes through.
Yeah. Right.
And so they're going to look at, how do I optimize my production? How do I lower my cost per unit? What's actually driving us?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like that outlook as well, because you're right. Like, we shouldn't look at it as a go away, it's useless. It's how can we evolve it to make it work for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Right. So awesome. Well, Jaymes, where can people connect with Monster, connect with you, maybe ask more questions and learn a little bit more?
Yeah, you can check us out, the TSC Monster website. There's a contact us on the site. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to engage. If you're looking for a printer, I think we're the best in the business. If you're looking for a partner or somebody to help you on your path on your own printing, adventure, let us know. We're happy to share knowledge. So
I love that. Awesome. Well, Jaymes, thank you so much for joining. And of course, check out apparelist.com for more just great content. We've got lots of podcast episodes that you can listen to, other content, written articles, all the good stuff. Jaymes, thank you so much.
happy to be here. Thanks for the interview.